Remnant, this is a message to anyone who will have the ability to listen. The God we all claim to follow in Deuteronomy 16 commands that we should be joyful during this Festival of Tabernacles time period. But since within these last few months you have once again taken from me any hint of joy, I will now likewise return the favor and try to steal your supposed joy. I have one request at this point for starters. The pieces of trash-talking remnant women and men who have seriously gone and used our children as talking communication and pitted them against so many of us needs to immediately be ended. This is like the crap that cults like Scientology use to threaten people, as well as divide families. This is disturbing and disgusting to myself, now that I've been once again threatened this way, as well as the ever having to listen to beaten up persons who've left or been forced to leave Remnant and have also faced these things. I was even hearing from outside the church people yesterday, telling me how they just learned their Remnant grown adult children are starting to extremely go further and teaching these people's grandchildren they are evil, was saying things like, your grandparents are cutting you off, which I know these people and know for a fact is not true. They would love to reconnect and meet with everyone today. This has happened hundreds, if not thousands of times. And for a church which is claiming to be doing God's will, it's seriously not making sense. But believe me, I know why you're all following this plan. You've been studying places like Scientology and have lots of reasons you want to be on the defensive or take the bullying stance with everyone. In my last quick video, I mentioned Remnant's security person stalking up behind me in the grocery store, which was startling enough. He's a big guy, as I'd had several people following me in the previous couple of days, as well as my attorney was randomly contacted by Remnant's attorney. And this grocery store guy wasn't even purchasing anything. And after talking with some strange words, looking to see how I reacted, he walked outside to the parking lot. And 30 minutes later, after I'd loaded my truck up, he strangely had stuck around and slowly walked right back up to my vehicle again, with ridiculously awkward and guilty mannerisms, and saying lines he'd been told to deliver, like, we, meaning the church, are trying to be normal. He literally said the word normal like 4 times. If you're really wanting to be normal, then start acting like a church. Everyone in this whole damned city and the surrounding communities realizes what you've all been doing and have become. If you're really wanting to be a place which feels as positively capturing the spirit of what God wants, then let's start with what I'm saying. End this dividing families tactic as of today. I would be expecting hundreds of texts and maybe phone calls to be going out over the next week or so with people reconnecting with family who felt estranged and worse, wrongly judged. You are no better than anyone else. Believe me, I have actually held back on some things, and I, as well as certain other people, know all kinds of secret sins and lustful lifestyles, and out-of-place strange greed and lusts, and yes, even law stretching happening within your falsely white-painted walls. You who claim you walk in the light, you should strongly listen to these words. We can start with what I've been suggesting, and if you follow it, watch. The love which will be instantly poured out onto the entire remnant will be like a flood. You won't know what to do with yourselves from the successful family stories. And we can move on without these escalations, because I want to see what you publicly, corporately say as far as penitent actions being taken or steps. Your elitist attitude this very night needs to be completely over with. I would hopefully expect to be hearing from outside the church families and people I've been in communication with before long, saying how it's getting much more like how it used to be as far as better relationships. I'll leave you all with this. What I've been confronted with, which I recently posted about, I know for fact has certainly come from higher-ups in this church. In utilizing people I want to have a relationship with, instead of confronting me, their sick selves. Well, it's interesting that you top people at Remnant felt this way with concern, because I have a really strong feeling Amanda, like me, has lots of things we could talk about, which might help to enlighten the remaining members of RF who've silently been slinking around Brentwood and worrying that there's more left to say. I'll be looking for a public sign that this church is going to continue to improve and start acting out of love, or possibly even reaching out to the local community or things of that nature, who all know good and well what you've been doing doesn't look anything like Christianity to everyone who's outside this supposed church. Let's start with a bunch of reaching out to families as a beginning of your once desired hope to be looked at as normal. Isaiah 58:5 says, with me paraphrasing, "Is this the kind of fast, or I'll say living, I have chosen? Only a day for a man or woman to humble themselves, like only surface deep, empty words, or slapping videos without any real substance as a substitute on a website? Is that what you call a fast or living acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the type of living I have chosen? To loosen and break the chains of injustice and quit beating up on the helpless with threatening these poor people with financial bullying or court or anything, and untie the cords of their yoke? To set these families who are feeling like the worst people ever free from their oppressive treatment and lies? To finally own up to your past mistakes? Is a church or people claiming to be followers of Jesus not supposed to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter, or at least be actually truthfully caring? Basically start putting into practice religion that God accepts as is spoken about in James 1, like true religion? And finally, back to Isaiah and what I'm emphasizing here, not to turn away from your own flesh and blood. I repeat, if you're indeed a church, then I say it's time you start acting like a damned church. Gwen is long gone, and there are no excuses for you, you know who you are, to be harassing and saying these things any longer. It's long past time for a certain group who loves to sing and talk about change to make their own version of change. We'll be watching and waiting. Until, if there needs to be a next time, let's strive even harder to keep it real.